Welcome to our channel, Behind My Story. Please like, share and subscribe.
Hello, my name is Adrian and I am 27 years old. I'm an archaeologist and the leader of an archaeological team. We have recorded many archaeological discoveries and earned many honors in our country. We are renowned and popular with the media. Yet, in spite of all my achievements, I wasn't satisfied. My dream in life was to discover the hidden gold of King Pedro, the second king of Peru. He was reputed in many legends to have possessed a vast treasure of gold. However, there was no concrete evidence of this. For all I knew, it may have been just old wives' tales passed down through the generations. I was the only one I knew who took the legend seriously. King Pedro had been famous for his power and strength. The stories mentioned that he had many hidden underground treasures, so there was at least a chance that these stories and legends might be true. I started my journey by searching the internet for maps and data from any previous expeditions to Peru. I read their notes, logs, and experiences there. I found a lot of data but no solid information that I could hang my hat on. I didn't give up though. I invited a few trusted members of my team to accompany me on an expedition to Peru. A 4-day trip saw us arrive at the South American forest, a heavily forested place, an ideal place for a king to hide his treasure. The forest was full of wild animals, and we were attacked several times. Every night, we would have insect bites all over our bodies. Still, I didn't lose hope in spite of these adversities. All evidence pointed to a place called the Tiger's Eye, somewhere in the middle of the forest. It was believed to be a lava tube or cave of some sort with a lava flow that went deep into the earth. When we reached what we believed to be our destination, we were so tired. Yet, my enthusiasm and faith drove me to want to go down into the hole immediately. My team warned me to exercise caution, but I was too excited. Too close to potentially achieving my life's dream. I rigged a rope and began lowering myself down into the hole. I quickly learned that this had been a mistake. The air in the hole was scalding hot. Sparks were rising with the hot air flow up and out of the hole. The rope started smoldering where small sparks in the stifling air uptake had clung to the rope, creating small burning embers. I began to worry that my rope might burn through and drop me into this hellhole. But right before I started to pull myself back up, I glimpsed something. Something shiny. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw flashes of gold tint embedded in the rock and glinting in the faint sunlight glow from above. I climbed out of the hole, soaking in sweat, sucking in the cool, refreshing air to expel the burning air from my lungs. I told my team about the veins of gold in the walls of the hole. We set up a camp for a few weeks and were able to extract a small fortune's worth of gold. It wasn't King Pedro's gold treasure, but it was close enough to make our expedition worthwhile. It was a great discovery in that my trip wasn't completely in vain. Can I call my dream a success?
Hello everyone, I'm Lauren. Did you ever wonder what it would be like to have your life completely destroyed by someone close to you? Ever thought about what you would do then? I didn't have time to think, 'cause that's exactly what happened to me. It all started 2 years ago. I lived a quiet life with my mom and dad and my sister. I loved my family. We were always together. We were happy until that fateful day. My dad got fired from his work, a big company. He had worked there for 20 years. The only money we had then was what he had managed to save over the years. Finding a new job wasn't easy. It was a hard time for all of us, especially my dad. He was becoming desperate. At times, he just sat there, quietly, deep in thought, and I rarely saw him smile since. One late night, we were still up waiting for him when he walked through the door. But something was different. He wasn't walking straight. It was the first time in my life seeing him drunk. I decided to take matters in my own hand. I started job hunting. I was lucky enough to find something suitable at a startup company. The pay was good enough, and the more I worked, the more I earned. I was trying my best to get our life back. I was giving it all I've got. My dad started asking me for money. I was more than happy to give him what he needed. I didn't even ask what it was for. Then he started asking for more. He came late almost every night, and he was never awake in the morning. It seemed like we hadn't talked together for ages. Then, money started disappearing from my purse. I got home from work one night. It had been a long day, and I was really tired. I put my bag in my room, and I went to the kitchen to find something to eat. I made myself a sandwich, then took it back to my room. But when I got to the door, I saw a shadow moving inside. I thought everyone was asleep, so I opened the door slightly and looked inside. I couldn't believe what I saw. My dad was standing over my bag, and my wallet was in his hand. He found no money in it, so he threw it on the bed and started going through my purse. At that moment, my mom came down the stairs. She had my dad's shirt in her hands and a small pack of white powder. I looked at her face. Her eyes were filled with tears. I tried to speak, but found nothing to say. My dad came out of my room. He saw us standing there. He tore the shirt and the pack from my mom's hands. He was hysterical. He started breaking things around him. Suddenly, everything changed. My mom and I were too scared to move, but then my sister came running down the stairs. He pulled her towards him and held a knife to her throat. He threatened to kill her if we didn't give him money. Without a moment's thought, I did what he asked. Things only got worse. Nothing was ever enough. He asked for more and more money, and if I refused, he'd get violent, beating up anyone in his path. I couldn't stand by and watch, so I would just give him what he wanted, until I decided enough was enough. He barged down the stairs one evening and asked for all the money I've got. I told him we had expenses to pay, the rent, school fees, but none of it mattered to him. He asked me again for the money and threatened me if I didn't do what he asked. I refused. He hit me so hard that I crashed my head against the wall and fell to the floor, bleeding. Everything went dark. My mom took me to different hospitals, and I had to do a lot of checkups and tests, but all the doctors said the same thing, that this was it. I was sentenced to live my life in darkness, never to see the light again. Bumping my head against the wall was one of the reasons, but apparently my psychological state played a huge role in my recovery. The doctors suggested that I'd be taken to a psychiatrist. My dad felt sorry for what he had done to me. He quit the drugs and alcohol, tried to be proper, but it was because of him that I was in this state. I didn't know if I could ever find it in myself to forgive him. I was torn inside. He was my dad, but I couldn't forget what had happened. I stopped talking shortly after, and he left, disappearing from our lives. No one knew where he was or what he was. A year had passed, and he came home. He sounded good, kind of like how he was before. He's trying to make up for what he had done. But to me, nothing he does makes a difference anymore. Kind of like how he was before. He's trying to make up for what he had done. But to me, nothing he does makes a difference anymore. I'm still in the dark. That's something I'm gonna have to live with my whole life. I can't change that. What do you think I should do?
Everyone likes mysterious phenomena. People are attracted to inexplicable things that mystify the mind, pique our curiosity, and provoke our imagination. People hate secrets and yearn to know how things work and why. When watching TV with your friends, figuring out murder mysteries and horror movies is relatively easy. But in real life, sometimes this is not so easy. Instead of anticipation of learning the truth about a mystery, you may be terrified instead. No, I'm not pitching for a new movie debut. I am introducing my story, which deals with a life experience involving this very topic. My name is Henrique, and I am 23 years old. I live with my father in a neighborhood that is quieter than most. Its residents go to sleep soon after sunset. Are you intrigued by this neighborhood? A legend circulates around this neighborhood that, well, first let me tell you how we came to live in this nice, quiet neighborhood. We used to live across town, but our old house burned down. Mom died in the fire, but Dad and I miraculously survived somehow. Dad decided to move away from that location due to bad memories. He wanted us to live in a quiet neighborhood far from there, So he searched for a nice home in a quiet neighborhood and found our current home here in this neighborhood. It was surprisingly affordably priced, and we wondered why, but Dad wasn't in the mood to look a gift horse in the mouth, so he bought it. As we were moving into our new home, a neighbor came over and welcomed us to the neighborhood. She said, "Welcome to the neighborhood. Isn't this area so quiet and beautiful? Too bad it owes these nice qualities to a massacre." She looked dismayed. "Massacre?" Dad said. "Oh, didn't you know?" she said. "Yes, the Draco family used to live here. One night, Mr. Draco went mad, killed his whole family, and then committed suicide. A little morbid, isn't it? I figured the realtor would have told you about that. That's why the real estate prices here are so cheap. Very few people would move into a house with such a macabre history. Oh, one more thing. I wouldn't go out after sunset if I were you." "Why not?" Dad asked. The neighbor hesitated, pondering if she should say any more. Finally, she said, "Well, everyone here has adopted the habit of going to sleep early. I used to drink my favorite tea on the porch at sunset, but one night I heard a loud, moaning voice come from out of nowhere. It scared the bejesus out of me, and I stopped being out after sunset after that." This story gave me shivers. So I went to my bedroom and locked all the windows. I imagined, I hope it was my imagination, that I heard voices outside all night. The next day, Dad went to work. When he came home at the end of the day, I told him that I'd heard voices all night, and he looked worried. He told me that he was going to have to work from dawn till dusk, but he promised to try to finish early whenever he could. That night, I couldn't sleep, so I searched the internet looking for information on the Draco family. There were a lot of anecdotes and even eyewitness accounts of Mr. Draco's ghost haunting this area. This had caused many people to move out of this neighborhood, which is why it was so peaceful and quiet and inexpensive to live here. I resolved to get to the bottom of this matter and prove or disprove it once and for all, but I would need help. A friend of mine named Hall lived not too far away, and I knew that he was obsessed with the supernatural, so I told him about our haunted neighborhood and the ghost of Mr. Draco. He told me that he had heard about this legend before and was excited at an opportunity to look into it deeper. So we gathered some tools, and he brought some spell books in case we should confront a ghost. Personally, I didn't believe in spells, but better safe than sorry, so I humored Hall. One day, we waited until sunset and sat on the front porch of my house and waited. Sure enough, just after the sky turned dark, we heard a low moaning sound. We felt mild tremors in the ground. The sound gradually grew a little louder. We were shaking with fear, almost as badly as the ground was shaking with tremors. Hall screwed up some courage and said that we had to ignore our fear and start digging into the ground where the voice was coming from. The deeper we dug, the louder the sound became. Suddenly, a blast of water jetted up out of the ground. We dropped our shovels and ran like bats we ran fast. After a few minutes, when we had regained our breath and slowed down our heart rates, we built up the courage to go back to investigate. As we approached the hole, we laughed mightily. We had ruptured a weakened water pipe that had been making horrendous flow and water hammer noises. When Dad got home, we told him we had solved the mystery of the legend of the Draco family curse. One night, Mr. Draco went mad, killed his whole family, and then committed suicide. A little morbid, isn't it?